Today, our source is something a little different. It's a set of handwritten notes, and honestly, they're like a treasure map to the huge, sprawling world of Indian philosophy. So, what we're going to do is decode this map together and just see where the heck it takes us. Let's get into it. Everything we're about to explore really boils down to this one simple but, wow, incredibly deep question. It's a question that pretty much every thinker has grappled with, and the different answers are what draw the lines on our map. This is the key that unlocks the whole system. Okay, before we get any further, we have to get this one term down, darshana. Now, it literally translates to seeing, which is cool, but for our purposes, think of it more like a viewpoint or a lens for looking at the world. Each darshana we look at is its own unique school of thought, with its own specific way of answering that big question, how do we really know what's true? So here's our game plan. We'll start with the big picture, the overall map. Then we'll zoom in on the two major territories, the orthodox and the heterodox schools. After that, we'll dive into the core debate they all had about knowledge, and we'll wrap up by looking at why any of this still matters today. All right, section 1. So the very first thing you need to understand about this map is that there is a massive dividing line running right down the middle. All of Indian philosophy is first split into two camps based on one absolutely crucial distinction. And what's so cool is that this isn't just some structure we're imposing on it. It comes directly from our source material. I mean, look at the notes themselves. They have two main headings that literally split all the schools into these two distinct camps. This is the fundamental organizing principle of the whole thing. And here it is. This is the fundamental split. On one side, you've got the Astika, or the orthodox schools. Their defining feature? They accept the authority of the ancient sacred texts, the Vedas. And on the other side, you have the Nastika, the heterodox schools. Their whole deal? They reject the authority of those very same texts. Everything, and I mean everything, on this philosophical map flows from this single point of disagreement. So let's start by exploring one side of that divide. We're heading into Astika territory, where we'll find 6 major schools of thought, all of them building their ideas on that shared foundation of Vedic authority. And diving right back into our notes, we find 2 schools that are almost always talked about together. Here's the entry for Nyaya, founded by the sage Gautama. It's pretty much always paired with the Vaisheshika school because they were both laser-focused on analyzing the world. One did it with logic, and the other did it with, well, physics. So, a simple way to think about it is that Nyaya were the logicians. They were obsessed with creating this airtight system for correct reasoning. Their partners, the Vaisheshika, were the atomists. They were trying to break down the entire physical universe into its most basic, indivisible building blocks. And when I say systematic, I mean really systematic. Just look at this. The Nyaya school organized all of reality into exactly 16 categories, or padarthas. This wasn't just some abstract philosophical exercise. It was this incredible, ambitious attempt to literally catalog everything that exists and every possible way we could know about it. Okay, staying in that same Astika camp, let's check out another one of the 6 orthodox schools. This one, Mimamsa, took a totally different approach. They weren't really concerned with logic puzzles or atoms. For them, it was all about the foundational texts themselves, the Vedas. Their main job, as they saw it, was to be the ultimate interpreters. They believed that performing the rituals described in the Vedas and performing them correctly was absolutely essential for maintaining what they called dharma, which is kind of like the cosmic order of the universe. They were the exegetes, the masters of textual analysis. Now, the other 3 orthodox schools, Sankhya, Yoga, and Vedanta, they explored metaphysics and consciousness. But these examples give you a real taste of the kinds of debates happening within this framework. All right, it's time to cross that great divide on our map. Let's go check out the other side, the Nastika or the heterodox schools. These are the thinkers who basically said, thanks, but no thanks, to the established authority and decided to forge their own paths. And once again, our source notes just lay it out for us perfectly. Right here, under the heading Nastika Darshana, we find the 3 big players, Charvak, Bauddha, which you probably know as Buddhism, and Jaina. And we're going to start with the most radical of them all. So meet the Carvaka school. These were the hardcore materialists of ancient India. Their argument was brutally simple. If you can't see it, touch it, or perceive it with your senses, it doesn't exist. Period. No soul, no afterlife, no gods. For them, direct perception was the only legitimate source of knowledge. Now, the other two major heterodox schools, Jainism and Buddhism, also carved out new paths. Jainism, with its profound commitment to nonviolence, introduced this fascinating idea that reality is many-sided. Buddhism, of course, centered its entire philosophy on understanding the nature of suffering to find a path to enlightenment. But here's the crucial part for our map. Unlike those radical Karvakas, both of these schools accepted not just perception, but also logical inference as valid ways of knowing the world. And that, right there, brings us to what might be the most exciting part of this whole map, the intellectual battlefield, where almost all of these schools, orthodox and heterodox, clashed. It was this intense, centuries-long debate over the right way to acquire knowledge. And the key term for this battlefield is pramana. So what is a pramana? Simply put, it's a valid means of knowledge. Think of it as a tool in a philosopher's toolkit. The central argument that raged between all these different schools was basically, which tools are legitimate? How many tools do we even have? Is it just what we see? Can we trust logic? What about what experts tell us?
And this table, pulled together from our notes, just illustrates the entire debate so perfectly. Look at this. The Karvaka said there's only one valid tool in the box, perception. That's it. The Buddhists and Vaisheshikas said, okay, there are two, perception and inference. Then the logicians from the Nyaya school come in and say, nope, there are four, adding comparison and testimony. And then the Mimamsa school takes it even further. Just think about what that means. Your entire reality, your entire worldview depends on how many of these tools you think are valid. This wasn't just an academic debate, it was the very core of their arguments about life itself.
So, let's zoom back out. We've taken a pretty wild journey through this ancient map of ideas, from the Great Divide all the way to these specific debates. But what's the real legacy here? Why does any of this matter? Well, I think the biggest takeaway is this. Indian philosophy is not one single thing. It's a loud, vibrant, sometimes clashing, and always deeply thoughtful conversation that unfolded over thousands of years. This map shows us a culture that was absolutely obsessed with the theory of knowledge itself, with rigorously debating logic, reality, and the very foundation of what it means for something to be true. And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. When you really get down to it, the debate between relying only on what you can see versus trusting logic and expert testimony or questioning the very nature of reality, aren't these the exact same questions we're still wrestling with today? In science, in politics, and just in our own lives? Turns out, some questions never get old.